This is a really big day for us and a big moment for us, and I hope a big moment for many of you as well. As we're in 2025, we're a quarter of the way through this century, and although there's some really fantastic work we are doing, as David said earlier, there's a bit of bleakness out there. So before I get on to the new strategy, 5 years ago, we launched the first version of Wilder 2030. And I remember at the time, and it was at the end of 2019 actually, and if you can remember back to 2018, we had Greta Thunberg, we had the school strikes, we had the state of nature reports. There was a lot of stuff out there and a lot of criticism at that time of the NGOs that we were not standing up for nature, we weren't being bold enough. And so when we did our strategy in that year, we really kind of stepped up to the plate at that point, and our 2020 strategy put for the first time this rallying cry to double the space for nature, to get to that 30% or more by 2030. We talked about tipping points, we talked about social change, we talked about the utmost importance of getting lots more people on nature's side. We talked about nature-based solutions and the role that nature plays in helping us with the climate crisis. And at the time, that was quite brave, it was quite different. Not many charities and NGOs were talking about that stuff then. So it felt really pivotal to us in 2020. And of course, fairly soon after that, we had the COVID pandemic. We also had Craig Bennett join as the UK CEO of the Wildlife Trusts. And although we had the COVID pandemic, and it was a very difficult few years, obviously, something really took root, actually, and a movement started to grow. We had thousands of people joining what we call Team Wilder, which is our just come and get involved, set up a group, do things, just get involved, take action. Thousands of people stepped forward. We've rewilded huge areas of land. We've innovated and pioneered nature-based solutions. We've brought conversations about the climate and nature crisis to decision makers and policy makers. Absolutely incredible the amount of profile we now have as the Wildlife Trusts, both nationally and locally. Our membership is growing. Our expenditure has doubled. So, lots of great things have happened, and it really feels like that was the start of a big momentum for change. So I'm really proud of everything we've done. We've done some really brilliant things, and some of you will know all about it. It's in our annual reports. But I do feel as we hit 2025, well, 2026 actually, not far off, we do need to do more. And where we are now is, I feel we need to start talking about these deeper systems, the systems that hold nature back. The things that we're doing are incredible, but we're also up against this relentless narrative around growth at all costs, more building, more development. We're running out of water in the southeast. We are hitting environmental limits. We're breaching planetary boundaries across the world. And so we've got to start getting into a different level of conversation if we're going to hope to save nature and ourselves. So there's a lot of thinking we've been doing in the last kind of year or so, and we feel now we're at this point where we need to start bringing the conversation into a broader space. We need to break out of our bubble. We need to start talking to other sectors, and we need to start bringing things together. I've been very inspired in putting this strategy together by not only the IUCN strategic plan, but also the IPBES, that's the IPCC for nature, if you don't know. They put out a report last year which was called the Transformative Change Report. And it talks about if we're going to achieve nature recovery, we need to first of all absolutely hold on to those special places. We need to really work with the sectors most responsible for decline, such as farming and water management and development, but with the most opportunity to recover nature, because those sectors actually have a huge opportunity to do the right thing and to restore nature at scale. We need to look at things like structures and decision-making and governance and how citizens get involved with their future, how we can make democracy work at a local level so that more people can stand up for their local area and also attract local investment. But we also need to really work much harder on nature connection. And we'll go on to talk about this in the panel as well as all of these other subjects. But a recent report by Professor Miles Richardson at Derbyshire University showed that there's been a 60% extinction of experience in the last 2 generations. So many kids now don't experience nature. So many people do not have that connection. And if they don't know about nature and they don't love nature, it's just not relevant to their lives. So we've got some big challenges. We've got a lot of the population just don't see nature as relevant. And then we've got this absolute growth. Where does it stop? So there's some big things to talk about. We've refreshed our vision, and I think what we've wanted to do with the vision is just bring a little bit more in about wildlife. It thrives, not just surviving in a few pockets. I mean, in Hampshire and the island, we do actually do quite well for nature sites, and we have more designations than many parts of England. But it's still under huge pressure from climate, from development, from pollution, and just more and more pressure. So we want wildlife to thrive, not just hang on in these pockets, but we also want nature to power solutions and see nature as part of the economy, something that we need for our economy, not something we can just keep exploiting. And our mission is really to try and drive nature recovery through transforming systems and values. And I think values is really key here, because we've got to value everything that nature does for us far better than we do as a society. And obviously, as a local trust, we work locally. And the work we do locally can not only restore nature, but we can support positive change. We can take action through people, partnerships, through policy, through shaping practice on the ground, and helping to create this kind of sense of positive change so that nature is underpinning the economy, creating jobs, creating better health outcomes for people, and helping to build climate resilience, which, let's face it, as David said earlier, is coming along a lot faster perhaps than anybody thought it would. And as you think, well, these are massive global challenges. What can a local wildlife trust do about shifting the dial on macroeconomics, politics, and all of these things? But actually, as a locally rooted organisation, we do have an important role to play. We believe that actually change comes from people. Transformative change is possible. And if people come together and work together, we can do this. And if it starts here in the places that we live and that we love, I believe we can create that social tipping point and actually show what a nature-positive future looks like. In our strategy document, which hopefully you will have a copy of, we've set out 5 strategies for change, and these are very much kind of inspired by the IUCN and the IPBES report. But the first one is about making sure that the best places for nature are protected. Now, that's not a given. You think it would be, but it's not. And there are, those that would seek to deregulate and remove protections for the sake of development and growth. So we'll probably talk about that later. But we've got to make sure we secure those special sites, absolutely. And our role is to deliver excellent management for nature, to deliver nature-based solutions, and to do fantastic work on the ground to look after and manage the best sites and restore new ones. Our second priority is around powerful partnerships. And I don't mean the sort of old-fashioned partnerships where it's just a talking shop and you all spend ages writing action plans and nobody does anything. I mean powerful, proper partnerships that are willing to speak up, that are willing to challenge, that are willing to show a better way of doing things. And we have all sorts of roles here. We can either lead partnerships, we can convene, we can participate. But it's going to be more important than ever before that different sectors come together and work to create this change that we need. Our third objective is around communities. We need to work much harder, and we're doing brilliantly work already, don't get me wrong, but still many people just don't have that nature connection. I think it's really important for us, and we have a great role here to enable people to connect with nature, to love nature, and to help them lead in their own right, help give people the tools, the confidence, and the courage to lead in their communities with our support. Our fourth is around nature-positive society, and this is where we've got to be cleverer. We've got to really bring forward the economic value of nature, the human value, the social value, the economic value We've got to do that better, and we need to play that into the conversations around devolution, around policy change, and the government's growth mantra. Let's flip that. What kind of growth do we want here? Do we want growth that depletes, or do we want growth that regenerates? And finally, I need to make sure we are a great team. We're a future-ready team, we're resilient, we've got energy, we've got support. It can be exhausting working in this space, so we have to support one another. So I need to make sure my team is fit and up for the challenge, and so we need to make sure we're supporting our team. And just finally, in our strategy, we've set out some of our aspirations for places across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. In our second panel, after lunch, we'll be exploring some of this place-based delivery in a bit more detail. But we want to try and show what a better future looks like in North Hampshire, in the New Forest, on the Isle of Wight, along that coast. How do we deal with some of these challenges that we're facing? And how do we bring nature-positive approaches in when we're looking at strategic plans, spatial development strategies, and all of these sorts of things? So we've got some ambitions in different areas, which we will talk about in the panels. And, I think if we can really focus on place and bring together lots of different agendas in places and integrate nature positivity into that, I think we can create some really, really powerful case studies and opportunities to show what change looks like. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour through our strategy. But I'll just leave you with a thought that nature is not an it. It's not separate from us. It is us. We are nature. If nature is dying, then we are too. Our living world shapes everything. It brings us joy and wonder, of course it does, but it also keeps us healthy. If the planet is sick, we are sick. If the planet is sick, our economy will suffer in the long run. So we've got to really think about restoring nature, not just for nature's sake, but for our own. And we need wilder spaces, we need healthier soils, rivers and seas, we need more room for wildlife, and we need more people willing to stand up for that change and to call out some of the ways in which we live today that are depleting our future. So we need to be brave, we need some fresh thinking, we need new partners, we need different brains around that table. But above all, we need that belief that we can do this and we can create a wilder world for us all. Thank you.